Hello, I'm Holly. This is Colby the Crazy Poochon, and this is my first YouTube video, long form anyway. I've had dogs in my life for 50 years now. Yes, I'm old. We always had dogs when I was a kid, and then as an adult, I've had my own dogs for the past 30 years. And I've also worked in a professional capacity with dogs in my early 20s. But having said that, I don't claim to be a qualified trainer, behaviourist, veterinary expert, nutritionist, any of that stuff. If you've got any doubt at all about any of those issues to do with your dog, then please get in touch with a proper professional. What I'm here to do is share my experience with my dogs and other people's dogs that I've known throughout the many years that I've been obsessed with dogs, and hopefully for us to learn from each other and to tread this journey of dog parenthood together. So, what's this video about? So you planned, you wished for, you envisioned what life with a dog was going to be like. You probably did loads of research. Maybe you thought, I've got long experience as a dog owner, just like I did. But when we're going through all this planning and imagining and wishing for our dog, once we finally actually get to meet that little dog, our expectations might not quite line up with what we had in mind for ourselves. And that is what this video is about. If that's what you're feeling, then don't panic. These feelings are absolutely 100% natural. You're bound to imagine what your dog is going to be like, and that's going to be coloured by all sorts of experiences and inputs that you've had. But at the end of the day, every person, every dog, every situation is completely unique, and there's no way that you can anticipate exactly what life with your dog is going to be. So the first thing I'd say is, 1, don't panic. Number 2, don't feel guilty for having those feelings. Observe those feelings without judgment. That would be the first thing to do. Because by being surprised, you're not rejecting your dog. You're not a bad person. You're just experiencing something that you hadn't prepared for, and we can't prepare for anything. Humans are so good at projecting themselves into the future and imagining what things are going to be like, but the fact is that's just not reality. That's our imagination running away with us. So, well, don't judge yourself. Don't judge the feelings that you're having, and most of all, don't judge your dog, because your dog's just being themselves. And that's the wonderful thing about getting to know a new dog, is seeing them, observing them, not for who you imagine they would be, but for who they really are, which, although different to what you might have imagined, might actually even be better, because it's real. It's you and your dog communicating, connecting, getting to do fun things together that probably didn't even occur to you. So it can be a wonderful, wonderful thing. But if you write it off as panic, this is not what I expected, abort, abort, then that's when dogs end up being rehomed, and nobody wants that. And you still want that vision of a happy life with a dog. It might just be a slightly different happy life with a dog than the one you imagined that you would have. So why is it that this life with your dog doesn't match up to what you anticipated? It might be that you've never even had a dog before. So how do you prepare for that? You don't know what it is that you don't know. And your experience of dogs may have come from social media, movies, TV shows, friends' dogs as well. We all know that what we see on social media is not a realistic representation of somebody's life. It's carefully curated and carefully planned and presented in such a way that people will like it. And I get that I'm on social media because I'm making a video on YouTube. But my attempt here is that we can be as real as possible and connect and do the best for our dogs. But having said that, my experience with Colby might be completely different to your experience with your dog. So take it with a pinch of salt and be curious and find out about, your own little dog. Yes. Colby, can we not? Expectations versus reality. This is what it is. Find out about your own little dog and what it is that makes them tick, and about their own little personality. And that's how you make progress. That's how you grow. That's how you learn. That's how you bond together. And that's what having a dog is all about. We're social creatures. They're social creatures. Hi, Coles. And this is how we get on in the world. What we see on social media, what we see presented to us in movies, it's incredibly enticing and incredibly appealing. We are set up as human beings to find dogs cute, and there is a whole lot of science behind this. I will try and list a link into a really interesting study that was done where foxes were bred in captivity, and they found that those foxes that were the friendliest and most social with people also had the cutest features. And we've evolved alongside dogs to find them appealing, and they've learned to communicate with us. They have more facial muscles than any other creature, so that they can do the puppy eyes thing, and so that they can communicate using expression. It's really interesting. Anyway, another reason why expectations might not meet reality, and this is one that I certainly have experienced with my last dog, Sonny, and that is that you simply forget what having a puppy actually entails. Because you adopt your puppy, it's crazy. You get through it. Then by the time you get another dog, 15 years or more may have passed, and your dog had developed into this mature, set in its ways, probably quirky dog. But the demands that puppies place on you, the amount of attention that they need, the amount of stimulation, of teaching, of affection, of all the rest of it that they need, you can understand that intellectually. But until you're faced with actually doing it every day, you've got the responsibility of shaping this little dog and making them into a little creature that can function and be happy in society, and that's all on your shoulders. You can watch all the YouTube videos, you can look back at your own memories and think, oh, isn't that lovely? And it is so lovely. But you forget about just how much work and responsibility goes into being a puppy owner. Not only that, one thing I've found with Colby was not only is he a different dog, not only do you forget what having a puppy would be like, but you're not the same person that you were last time you had a puppy. We're not the same 15 years ago as we are today. One of the things that I found is it didn't occur to me how much less mobile and energetic I am at 50 than I was in my early 30s when I adopted Sonny. And although I'm not quite decrepit yet, I'm not energetic and mobile in the same way I was then. And it does make a difference. You can still have a wonderful life together, but sometimes you need to adapt a tiny bit, and that is absolutely fine. We have to roll with what life throws at us, and that keeps things exciting. So another reason that expectations might differ from reality is that you've got a new breed. And this is one of the things that I found when I adopted Colby, because my only prerequisites to adopt a dog were I wanted a rescue dog. Nothing against people who buy from breeders. I'm not going to get into the whole adopt versus shop debate. But I personally wanted to give a home to a dog that needed one. And in addition to that, because I lived in a flat, when Sonny got older, she suffered with arthritis in her back and mobility problems. And it was necessary for me to carry her up and downstairs to our apartment, which I was happy to do. But obviously it meant I only wanted to adopt a dog under a certain size so that it was physically possible for me to carry that dog up and downstairs should it suffer from oh, there's a giant fox in the front garden. Should it suffer from any mobility problems. So they were my two criteria anyway. Now, in the past, I had always had terriers. Jack Russell Crosses. Jack Russell Patterdale mix was my last dog, we think. although I had experience meeting and working with a lot of different breeds, so I knew breeds quite well, I don't think I was quite prepared for how different a Pouchon is to a terrier. I mean, they are both absolutely wonderful breeds. And I know that some of you are going to say, a Pouchon's not a breed, it's a crossbreed, it's a Mongol, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, a Jack Russell Patterdale cross isn't a breed either, but it is a terrier, it's a type of dog. So you get what I'm saying. Pouchons, terriers, not the same. In some ways, the Pouchon is easier than terrier in that, in my experience of having them, terriers are so focused, run on rails. It's like I knew that if Sunny saw a squirrel, she was going to go off after that squirrel and she was not going to come back until she was sure there was absolutely no way she was going to get that squirrel. She would disappear into the woods and that'd be it. There was no getting through to her. That prey drive was just too strong. Colby, prey drive, not so strong. He does like to chase a squirrel. He'll have a bark at a cat, but or a fox. But the thing about him is he's much more present. He's much easier to get through to once he's seen that stimulus. It's much easier to stop him reaching that level of over-arousal. But, and this is the other thing, it's harder to keep him fulfilled and interested because he's very clever, which the terriers were as well, and he's got a very active brain. But with the terriers, it was very, very obvious which activities were going to fulfill them. They wanted to chase things, they wanted to kill things, even if it was like a squeaky toy. But they wanted to dig. They were the sort of activities that would keep them fulfilled, and if they were allowed to do those things, conk out, sleep, you got some peace. Colby, on the other hand, is somewhat more complex and unpredictable in that he's physically very active. He loves running around in the countryside, but his brain is very active. But finding activities that fulfill that can be quite tricky. He's not interested in chasing them all. He's not interested in destroying things. I mean, he's a little bit, all dogs are, but I mean, not particularly. It doesn't fulfill him in that way, although he might have fun shredding a tissue, for example. You can figure it out through breed. Poodles were bred as hunting dogs, so they tend to like to retrieve. One of the things Bichons were used for was tricks in the circus and stuff, actually. And he absolutely loves trick training, but he's not toy motivated at all. He is treat motivated. He loves searching games. He loves using his nose. He loves sniffing things out. That's what fulfills his little brain, and that is completely different to what I had to supply to my terriers. And he really needs that, or he will not settle. It does not matter how physically tired your dog is from running around, walking, balancing on boulders like Colby likes to do. It doesn't matter. If their brain is not being stimulated, if they're not feeling fulfilled in what they're doing, they're not going to settle. And that is one of the main difficulties that I've had with Colby, and one of the main prompts for setting up this channel, because I did have a look online for enrichment ideas and stuff, but a lot of the enrichment that you see on the internet isn't truly enrichment. It's ways of keeping your dog busy, which has its place, especially if you're trying to record a YouTube video and he keeps barking. But it's not true enrichment, and it's not going to fulfill those needs that your dog has a sense of purpose. He can't decide to set up a YouTube channel. He just gets roped into it with me. Anyway, so new breed can make a big difference. But there again, another reason why expectation can not match up can be the fact that it's the same breed, because all dogs have certain common behaviours and needs and such. And then when you get more specific, you can look at the breed and heritage of a dog and what that dog was bred to do, and that will give you more idea regarding what that dog needs and what that dog's personality is going to be like. But it's also the case that dogs are individuals and they're all different. So it could be you've had terriers all your life and then you adopt another terrier and that dog is completely different to your old dog. And that can be a big surprise too. And I've seen that when I used to work with dogs back in the day and I used to train dogs a bit. And people would have two of the same breed, sometimes even litter mates, and they would enjoy different activities and they would have their own personality quirks, which were completely different. And I think sometimes, you know, you can think, well, I've had this breed, I'll have it again and it'll be the same as my old dog. Well, it won't be the same as your old dog. And it has a right to be its own person, its own non-human canine person. It has to be allowed to be a dog. It has to be allowed to be itself. We can't carry those expectations across because it's not fair. Imagine if you had a friend and you said to that friend, oh, okay, so you're really into sports. Well, I don't really like sports. So if you're going to be my friend, you're going to have to change yourself, be someone else. You're going to have to be interested in music primarily. I'm afraid it's a deal breaker. You just wouldn't do that to someone. You couldn't do that to someone. You need to have a friendship, to have a relationship. You need to connect as you are. You need to connect as the dog is. What is it that makes them tick? What is it that they love? What is it that they hate? What is it that they're scared of? If you can do that, observe the dog, observe yourself in your interactions with your dog and have a look at what it was you hoped to get from your relationship with your dog. If you can observe that curiously, like a scientist, experimentally without judgment, you can start to piece together a picture of what was it that made you want a dog in the first place. You can have had a specific image in your mind. I'm going to play sports with this dog. He's going to chase a ball. I'm going to do agility. And that's what I want to do. And then you get your dog and your dog is like, no, I don't think so. That's like the most boring thing I can imagine. I don't like it. Now, that's not to say that you'll never be able to do sports with your dog. It may be that the dog could develop an interest in these things over the time if you approach it in the right way, but you can't bank on that. And if you look back and think, okay, so I wanted to do sports with my dog, for example, or I wanted the dog to be a couch potato and sit on my knee, or I wanted my dog to hike for miles and miles. It's not just a case of saying that's the thing that I wanted. You need to look beyond that at the next level and think, what is it that I hoped to get from doing that activity? So it may be that you wanted to play sports with your dog because that's what you did with your old dog and you remember it being really fun. But your dog might have a passion for doing nose work or hiking, and there's still activities that maybe you'd not thought of that you can still extract a huge amount of fun from. You're just doing it in a different way than what you had envisioned. But not only are you enjoying it, the dog is enjoying it. So sometimes we have to rethink. So another reason why expectations and reality might not end up matching up can be due to behavioural issues, which may be caused from poor breeding, a lack of socialisation. It could be some sort of trauma that they've experienced. Number one, it's not your fault. Number two, it's not your dog's fault. You are both doing your best with the experiences that you have. And it's going to be a struggle. And because it's going to be a struggle, the two most important things are one, that you're kind to yourself, and two, that you're kind to your dog. And in this sort of situation, my advice would be to seek the help of a professional, because it's really difficult and you need someone who really knows what they're doing. And also, when you're going through it on your own, without support from outside, it can feel hopeless. It really can. And it can feel like things are never going to change, but they will. And so that's one of the reasons it's really helpful to keep a journal, just really briefly, like a captain's log, of your dog's behaviour. So it could be how a walk went. Oh, he barked at 6 other dogs. He barked at one other dog. Oh, I left him alone for 5 minutes if you've got separation anxiety. And I used to do this with Colby, and it's amazing how much you focus on the negatives and you don't notice the progress that you've made. So it feels in retrospect like you haven't got anywhere, but if you've got that data to refer to look at, you can actually see that your dog's made really good progress and that you've made really good progress. And I experienced this a bit. One of the problems that I had with Colby when I first got him is he finds pavement walks very, very boring. And he wants something to make it interesting and spice it up. So what he had discovered would help him in this way was to just randomly pick up bits of plastic, bits of rubbish, and he ended up even swallowing a piece of plastic. Oh my gosh, that was so stressful. Anyway, he was fine. But there was a period in which, if we were in the house, he was barking at every sound because he couldn't settle, because he wasn't fulfilled. And my solution to that would normally have been, well, fine. If he can't settle in the house, if he's got too much energy, what I need to do is take him out for a walk. But of course, as soon as I took him out for a walk, he was picking up bits of garbage, putting himself in danger. I didn't want him to swallow something and get sick. So I felt absolutely trapped and helpless in that situation, and it's not a good place to be. And if a person's not a dog parent, they don't understand that, because why would they? Why would they? So it's not your fault. It's not your dog's fault. You're both doing the best you can with the tools you've got. And sometimes you need to bring in some extra tools. And I understand that cost can be an issue and finding a good trainer can be an issue. The best thing that I did was finding Max from MK9 Plus, and he has a whole online platform which is filled with such valuable lessons and information. He really helped me to understand what it was that my little dog needed in order that he could be more happy, more fulfilled, more peaceful, more fun-loving, and sort of settle into who he is, because it's a big wrench for a little dog to leave what he knows and come to live with some random mad dog lady. And he's done remarkably well. He's such a star. I just love him. Being a dog parent, it's hard. It's wonderful. It's fulfilling. It's fun. It can be fun. Even though it doesn't always seem like it, it is so much fun. This is not about making you somebody that you are not. This is not about making your dog be someone that they are not. This is about growth. It's about exploration. It's about connection. It's about all that wonderful good stuff. It's normal to have these feelings. It's normal to sometimes wonder if you've made a mistake. It's normal to wonder about this little dog and what's going on in their head. There's no place for judgment here. There's no place for guilt here. Whatever you're feeling, whatever your dog is feeling, however that is exhibited, that in and of itself is valid. It's your job to then explore those feelings without attachment and explore those behaviours that your dog's exhibiting, and to get curious about it, get experimental about it, figure out what it is that is telling you and where you can move from there. Because once you've got a plan of, oh, well, maybe it's because of this, let's explore that, or maybe my dog would like that, let's go that way. Once you've got some momentum, you'll feel a lot less helpless and a lot more empowered to be the sort of dog parent that you want to be, to provide the best life for yourself and for this little dog that you've got responsibility for, or big dog. I'm not being anti-little dog. I'm not being anti-big dog. It's just, St. Bernards are little dogs to me. They're all little dogs. Judgment is no use to anybody. Discernment, yeah. Judgment, no. I found it really useful when I hammed across MK9 Plus, because as well as his paid platform, he's got loads of really useful videos. He's just done a really good one on understanding dog body language, which will help you to understand your dog. I thought I knew loads about dog body language. Turns out there was loads I didn't know. I would go to his Instagram rather than his YouTube because he seems to upload on there more frequently. There's a lot of misinformation out there, so you have to be careful. Try and get recommendations from other people, I would say, for sure. And you want someone who is not just going to be a trainer, because all that does is help you to micromanage your dog's behaviour, like whack-a-mole, and you never actually get into the root cause of why your dog is behaving in that way in the first place. You want someone who's actually going to help your dog and look at what your dog needs and put those foundations in place. There is a place for training. It is important, but it shouldn't make up the majority of what you're doing with your dog. The training that you do will not be effective if your dog is not in a balanced mental state or on its way to being in a balanced mental state, so that it can actually take that in and you can communicate with that dog and you're setting that dog up to win. While ever the dog is like that, you're setting your dog up to fail. So that's what you need to focus on. Your vision of what having a dog was going to like does not necessarily match entirely with reality. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the world, especially when it's just a conflict of style, shall we say, rather than actual challenges posed as such in managing a dog's behaviour. I am 99.9% confident that you and your dog will be able to find activities that you can share and both enjoy, that you and your dog will learn a way to share affection and bonding in a way that is authentic to your true self, and that will improve quality of life for both of you. Don't let the perfect get in the way of the good. That is a favourite saying of mine. I almost left this YouTube channel in the planning stages, because if you leave your YouTube channel in the planning stages, it will be pretty perfect. And you can't mess it up. But it's not real. And we got dogs because we wanted to experience real life with them. So you cannot just be attached to this fantasy idea of what having a dog was going to be like. It might be different, doesn't mean it's going to be worse, okay? You can be a good dog parent. You can have a good relationship with your dog. What you will never be is a perfect dog guardian, a perfect dog parent. It is impossible. You will make mistakes. Don't assume that just because you make some mistakes, you're going to ruin your dog or ruin your relationship with your dog. That's just not how life generally works. As long as you are doing your best for your dog, you are doing everything that you need to do. Imperfection does not equal failure. Imperfection equals being a human being or being a canine being. So if you make a mistake, don't panic. If your dog makes a mistake, don't panic. Experience the challenges, experience the mistakes, and then just keep going and enjoy the joyful bits, which are so frequent and so easy to overlook. A lot of this has been a bit of a ramble. A lot of this has been quite, I don't want to say theoretical, because it's not really theoretical, is it? And I want to give you something concrete that you can do. And I want to expand on this further in future videos, because we really have only just touched the surface here. But as you may have noticed, I can talk about dogs literally all day, given the opportunity. One thing that we've determined is that it's really easy to focus on and get caught up in the negatives, in the challenges. It's also really easy, because of that, to miss and not notice the positives. And we've established that you need to be curious, you need to experiment if you're going to build a life of meaning and fulfillment with your dog. So what I want you to do is to keep a list, a journal, using whatever medium suits you best, whether it's notes in your phone, whether it's a fancy notebook, a scrap of paper, as long as you don't lose it. But the point is to record everything that you discover. We're going to use this journal to focus on our relationship with our dog. I don't want you to focus too much on the challenges at the moment. I know I said that keeping a record of that can help you keep in perspective how well you and your dog are coping. But having said that, I think it's really important, first and foremost at this stage, to focus on the positives. So I want you to record every time you have a pleasant interaction with your dog, every time your dog does something cute or something that you like. I want you to list times when your dog's having really good fun doing something or shows an interest in something. I would like you to list when you enjoy something, a moment of gratitude for something that you've shared with your dog. I'll give you an example. So Colby, okay, I envision, because this is something that I did with my old dog and all my dogs, that he would be super excited to go for a walk, that he would love to do laps of the very picturesque park that we live in, and it would be fantastic. Colby finds the park a bit boring. He loves a countryside walk. He loves to climb on boulders. He loves to climb on trees. Nearly every photograph I've got of Colby is him perched on a boulder. Yeah, so he doesn't like to walk around the park. It's a bit pedestrian, it's a bit boring, it's the same every day. Ugh. Not keen, always, to go for walks. And if he does go for walks, he likes to choose the route. And the routes that he chooses are not routes that I would choose. He wants to potter around the neighbourhood. He wants to sniff every grass verge and lamppost. He wants to sit on a street corner and watch people getting in and out of the cars because he's incredibly nosy. Now, that is not what life with a dog looks like on Instagram. No one is walking around boring neighbourhood streets while their dog spends 10 minutes sniffing the same grass verge. But Colby absolutely loves that. So I could observe that. I could write that down as an observation. Colby loves sniffing the same grass verge for 10 minutes. And you think, well, that's not what I want to do with my dog. How is that useful? But of course, what it taught me is that Colby is really driven and stimulated to sniff. He finds it fulfilling. That is what, given the opportunity, he would choose to do. So then I can think, well, maybe there's a way we can harness this. Maybe there's an activity that we can share that he will find fulfilling that's based around sniffing. So yeah, indeed. So we started with some hiding treats around the house, some search and retrieve, and that is now one of our go-to activities. And a side effect of this is because he's happier and more fulfilled in himself, on the rare occasions he does feel like playing with a toy or play fighting. I think those have increased because our bond has increased and because we're closer and because he's generally in a more positive mood. So yeah, that is what I want you to do. I want you to note down what your dog is actually doing. And you might think, well, he's not doing anything. Okay, yeah. But he's not doing nothing to do nothing. He wouldn't exist. Even if your dog's snoring his head off, even if your dog's just sniffing a corner, even if your dog is staring out of the window, even if your dog is pouring at you, whatever it is, I want you to record it in your log. And I want you to get curious about why your dog is doing that. I want you to look at the places your dog chooses to rest. I want you to look at what foods your dog likes. I want you to be a private investigator building a profile on your dog That's what I want you to do. And in future videos, we're going to expand on this. There's going to be ideas for experiments and activities that you can do with your dog to try and get to know them, to try and get to find activities, enrichment that you'll both enjoy to build a beautiful life with your beautiful dog and just to have lots of fun. If you are interested in this, then please like and subscribe. And in the next video, we'll talk more about how you can establish maybe not the life you envision, but maybe one as good or even better, but just slightly different. And I hope we can walk this journey of dog parenthood, dog guardianship, dog parenting, whatever you describe yourself as, together, because you never know it all. You never learn it all. You're evolving, your dog's evolving, your situation's evolving. Knowledge is evolving. What I was taught about dogs back in the 90s has got no bearing whatsoever on what we know about dogs now in the 21st century. So, yeah, don't give up hope. Keep going. It's fine. It's not rocket science. It's just dogs, okay? It's just being alive. And give your beautiful dog a cuddle for me. If there's any specific questions, or if you want to share your story of your experience sharing your life with a dog, then just drop it in the comments. I would love to hear what you've got to say and to maybe focus my videos in a way that might be useful to you. See you soon. Bye.